Welcome to the Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristen Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Trying to conceive after loss is a journey unlike any other, one that deserves a different kind of support. That's exactly why I created Mother Like No Other, a gentle, private community for women navigating trying to conceive after loss. Inside, you'll find real-time support through our Voxer group chat, monthly workshops hosted on Zoom, guest speakers, and guidance from me, an experienced doula who's walked this path too. If you're looking for a space where your angel baby is honored, your fears are held, and your hope is supported, this is it. You can join us for just $22 a month, a low commitment, low pressure way to receive real support on one of the hardest journeys there is. You're free to cancel anytime, but the connection and comfort you're going to find inside, well, that might just be exactly what your heart's been needing. So if you are trying to conceive after loss or thinking about trying to conceive after loss and are wanting to learn more, please head to @the.doula.life on Instagram or www.thedoulalife.ca/motherlikennoother. We aren't meant to journey this path alone, and inside Mother Like No Other, you won't have to. Today I'm sitting down with Brianna, who you might know as the heart behind Caroline Cares. She's a mother to her daughter Caroline, who sadly passed away at just 27 days old in the NICU, and is now preparing to welcome her rainbow baby boy in just a few short weeks, maybe even a few short days. Bri shares a story of her Caroline's life with such honesty and such tenderness. From the moment they learned about her congenital heart condition, through the whirlwind of a high-risk pregnancy and care, to the impossible decisions and the sacred moments they were gifted with their daughter. This story holds both unimaginable pain and deep, deep enduring love. We talk about what it was like to sleep beside Caroline one last time, how it felt to walk out the hospital without her, and how, in the aftermath of her grief, Caroline Cares was born. Bri is a wonderful storyteller, and the way she retells Caroline's story makes you really feel like you were right there with them. It is heartbreaking, and it is beautiful, and it is so full of truth. You really do feel Bri's love for Caroline in this conversation, and you really get to see firsthand the kind of fierce mother that Bri really is. Okay, now let's dive in and hear from Bri. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining the Rainbow Connection. Today, I have Bri. Hi, Bri. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Bri and I actually met through Instagram, and this is our first time actually face-to-face having a chat, but I feel like I know her because we have been connected for a while now, and I've been able to know so much about her story and watch her journey from afar. So it's really special to have her here chatting with us today. Bri has a beautiful story about her daughter Caroline that she's going to be sharing, and she's actually sitting here 33 weeks pregnant. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that's going to. But before we do dive in, Bri, would you mind sharing with our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I live in Northern California. My husband and I have been married for 7 years, and we had Caroline in 2023, and we are currently pregnant with our rainbow baby. Very excited to welcome him in August. And yeah, when we're, not working, we're helping NICU families through our little charity that we run, and Yeah, just so happy to be here and support this incredible community full of just amazing women. Worst club ever, but best members.
Totally. I'm really looking forward to hearing a lot more about your Caroline Cares too. We're going to dive into that throughout the journey, but before we get there, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Caroline?
Sure. So in 2022, we got pregnant. And it was, very sudden, like, oh, we're pregnant, which I know is not easy for a lot of people to hear. But we just kind of started trying, and then we got pregnant, and it was pretty smooth sailing. I didn't really get morning sickness. It was kind of a dream. We even traveled to Tahiti late in my second trimester for a birthday. It was amazing. She's a total dream. At 20 weeks, we had the anatomy scan, and she was measuring small. She was under the 10th percentile. And, they offered an amniocentesis, but didn't really push it. And we just kind of were like, let's just see where this goes. She could just be small.
Because under 10% is still a variation of normal, right?
Right, right. So yeah, so we went, traveled, and then they were like, come back after your trip and we'll do another ultrasound. So that's what we did. I was 29 weeks pregnant. And they did another anatomy scan, and they noticed that her heart was a little large, and it was specifically her right ventricle. And so they sent me to a fetal echocardiologist, or a fetal cardiologist, and he performed an echo. Um, and it was there that, the techs are very quiet and they don't say anything. And we just kind of were like, okay, she's just looking. And then the fetal cardiologist came in and was like, I'm going to take a few more photos. And we just asked, like, is everything okay? And my husband was very positive and like, I'm sure everything's okay. And the doctor looked at us and said, I'm sorry, but it's not. Um, there's a heart condition. And he's like, I can't talk about it right now. I need to take more photos and then we can have a chat. And I remember being on that chair, just like the tears, I and my husband just went quiet, and like we almost couldn't look at each other because we were just like, we were processing, we were in shock. And so then he took us into a room and explained that it was a form of, her tricuspid valve didn't form properly, and so it's causing all these issues in the heart. So my husband, being who he is, just took notes. He just took notes. I was in shock. I just sat there. I don't think I retained any information. And so we went home. We contacted one of my girlfriends whose son had a form of CHD, who is living, thankfully. Um, but we contacted her, like, what do we do? Like, where do we go? And she kind of connected us with all these doctors in the area, connected us with Stanford, which is one of the best hospitals in the nation. So we decided to get a second opinion through one of her doctors. And he was the one that really diagnosed her with Epstein's anomaly, which is the anomaly she did have. And then we reached out to Stanford at the same time, because the first fetal cardiologist we spoke to was very like, we'll do another echo in 4 weeks. Let's see how you progress. She's better in than out. Kind of like, this will be more of an issue once she's born.
Kind of nonchalant even about it.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
And you're like, well, we need to do something about this.
Well, I was kind of nonchalant. I was like, okay, this doesn't seem that bad. And then my girlfriend was like, no, you need to do something now.
Mm.
And then when we reached out to Stanford and they looked at her images, we were able to send the images to them. They said, you need to come in tomorrow, or yeah, you need to come in ASAP. So we can do our own echo and we can go from there.
How did it feel to just like hear that urgency from a doctor at Stanford?
That's a good question. Um,
Because I'm sure at this point you're still processing so
yes,
much, right?
I think It felt both good and bad. It felt bad, obviously, because it felt more urgent and scary, but it felt good that we were doing something and maybe Stanford could fix it. Like maybe doing this now, we'll get ahead of it somehow and we'll fix it. So it felt both good and bad. And so we live like 2+ hours from Stanford. It's not like, down the street. So we drove down to get an echo. And, we got taken into the consultation room afterwards, that dreaded consultation room. And they pretty much explained the same thing. She has Epstein's anomaly, and now there was some fluid around her abdomen, I think, and then I think her lungs. There was fluid. So she's now at risk for hydrops, which is, as we know, a very fatal condition for babies.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a Friday, and they were like, how soon can you move here? And we were like, move here? Like, how are we going to move here? Thankfully, there's a Ronald McDonald House. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Yeah,
program. Okay.
we have one at Toronto as well.
Okay, great. So they were like, we'd put you in a Ronald McDonald House.
So they wanted you to move in hospital.
They wanted us to move nearby so that I can get routine appointments there, and they wanted to treat me there.
How far along were you at this point?
Oh, this was like early January. I think I was like 31 weeks. And so that was a Friday. And then they said, could you make it Monday?
Wow.
And so we were like, I mean, we have to. Like, of course we can make it Monday. So I remember that weekend was a whirlwind. We had one of the biggest storms like ever. So there was a flooding risk. So my husband was like trying to put like sandbag in the backyard and trying to dig up like a moat so that our house wouldn't flood. I'm frantically putting Christmas decorations away, trying to pack at the same time to go to Stanford for who knows how long.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty stressful weekend. So we drive on Monday, go to our appointment, and they essentially tell me to prevent hydrops from getting worse, they want to start putting me on endomethacin, which is an NSAID, a very a big no-no in pregnancy. And I can't remember what that was supposed to do, but they wanted to try it. And with that medication, her amniotic fluid could fluctuate, so they would have to stop it if I were to go into oligo, which is low amniotic fluid. And then once I get amniotic fluid again, they would put me back on it and all this stuff. And then in addition to that, they wanted to put me on a very anecdotal therapy. They didn't have a lot of research behind it, but it's very low risk for me, which is hyperoxygenation therapy. There was something about how the extra oxygen could help with the pressure in the heart and relieve the pressure so that it stops growing so big.
Now, was that oxygen being put into your bloodstream or into your lungs?
Into my lungs. So I would have to wear an oxygen mask at least 12 hours a day.
And at this point, they're still saying, baby's still better in utero. We don't want to deliver yet. We want this baby to get mature. Okay.
So that's a good point, actually. They were predicting that she would need ECMO, which I meant to look up the acronym, but I can't remember what it means. But essentially it's life support. And so they kind of told us she would need to be put on ECMO. And at this point, I had never heard of ECMO, and I was like, okay, yeah, she can be put on ECMO. And they're like, you might want to Google or you might want to see a photo of a baby on ECMO because it is very jarring. And so they told us she will likely be put on ECMO when she's born. At 31 weeks, she did not meet the minimum weight requirement. So if she were to be born, then there's really nothing they could do. So she needed to get to a certain weight. I think it was 4 pounds um, in order to meet the weight requirement, maybe 4.5 pounds, I can't remember. But that was another reason why they wanted to keep her in and growing. And so with the oxygen, um, they couldn't get it transportable right away. So I had to be admitted.
Mm.
So I was admitted for 3 days. I was put on oxygen. Um, and I pretty much laid in my hospital bed, breathing oxygen out of an oxygen mask. And, I'd go back and forth between the mask and the cannulas. I was on 24-hour monitoring at this point, and they would do fetal echoes. They would just check on her growth. Um, and when those 3 days ended, they did an anatomy scan and they noticed I think her femur and another body part was measuring like 5 weeks behind.
Mm.
And they kind of mentioned like, did you do any genetic testing or anything like that? And I was like, well, I did the NIPT, and they were like, no, 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 like intense, like amniocentesis or a CVS. And I was like, no, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, we're going to get the genetics team to look at this because she might have a genetic condition. At this point, I was at my max with the heart stuff. I lost it. I lost it in the room, and I was like, I can't deal with that right now. Like I physically and mentally can't deal with that thought or emotionally deal with that. We need to focus on our heart. And my husband was the same. He was like, let's not worry about that. Let's just take it day by day.
Like, do whatever you gotta do.
Yeah,
But like, we can't
right.
handle this right
We
now.
can't
Yeah.
handle this. Like,
Yeah.
and again, this is a different team, a different OB telling me this, and I'm just like, I can't, I can't. Every time I have an appointment, I get bad news. Um, and so my husband really pushed for me to be discharged because the only thing that was keeping me in the hospital was the oxygen issue, getting it transportable. And so he was really working with our caseworker in the hospital to get that remote, because I was mentally not doing well. Like I couldn't leave the hospital. When you're admitted, you can't leave. Um, and I was, I would go on walks and work out. Like I was working out 2 days before I gave birth. Like I just that's what I need to do, and I couldn't do that. And so he was really pushing to get me out. Um, so we did. We were able to leave, get a little oxygen tank on little rollers
Mm.
that I took with me. At this point, it was like I want to say mid-January. We were in and out of the hospital. We were at Ronald McDonald, so I could walk to appointments, which was nice. And they would look at my levels and change the endomethacin prescription based on how my amniotic fluid was doing. It would fluctuate. And we were just doing that and kind of trying to live like, because we didn't know how long, the longer the better, but we didn't know how long. So we were just, we were going out to eat and trying to have these pockets of joy um, amongst the stress because it was unsustainable.
Yeah,
Like,
you need a reprieve. If you don't have a reprieve, you're just gonna break, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct. And so I want to say it was a Friday. They had me go in for a an ultrasound on her anatomy, and this ultrasound tech, I won't say her name, but she was incredible. She looked and I knew I was going to forget something. Another thing that they wanted me to do was the steroid shot. This was another thing that really stressed me out was they were like, well, you need to take the steroid shot. And I was like, but it's only good for like a week or a few days or something like that.
Hmm.
And I was like, but she's too small right now. What is that going to do? Um, and they were like, yeah, but just in case. And I kind of pushed against it at this time because I was like, she's too small. So I don't know what helping her lungs would do in the next few days. And then so that was like a few weeks out from this moment in time. And so she started to get bigger and they decided, okay, we want you to take the steroid shot. And I did. And I got the first shot, and then the second shot 24 hours later. And then the next day is when I went in for this ultrasound. And this ultrasound tech says to me, "Did you take the steroid shot?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "When did you take it?" And I said, "I took the second one yesterday." And she said, "Good. You're going to deliver soon." And I asked why. And she said, "I'm not supposed to tell you this, and she showed me the screen, and she said there is a reversal. God, I think it was like the blood in the placenta. So there was a reversal flow. So my placenta was failing essentially. Um, and she's like, I don't know when, but you're probably going to be admitted today. Just a heads up." Um,
God bless those ultrasound techs, right? Because those moments of humanity, do you know what I mean? Like you're not just scanning like nothing. Like it's a human on that table. And those moments of humanity and just like being real with you, even when we were pregnant, I remember I had one ultrasound tech that was the same. And I was like, God bless you. Like, because thank you for just putting me out of my misery that I didn't have to go in that waiting room and just
exactly.
mull, right?
Right. Right. The
Mm-hmm.
walk to the waiting room, it feels like hours. Like you're just like, I know I'm going to get bad news. Can we just get out? Can we just spit it out? 100%. She was a blessing and just told us exactly what happened,
And they
essentially.
always say it better than the doctor does,
Yeah, they
right?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they show you. They show you. They're like, "Here, I can show you. Here it
And
is."
that's so helpful. So
Yeah.
what happened? What happened next?
So exactly what she said. We went into the room. They said, "Yeah, her placenta is starting to not do well. We want to, but she's still small because the ultrasound measurements are never accurate. So we want to admit you and put you on 24-hour monitoring, and go from there." And so that's what they did. I was admitted, and
At this point, how far along are you?
I was 34 weeks and 6 days.
Okay. So baby, you were out there. You were getting up
Yes.
there. Yeah.
But remember, she's measuring small. So,
Yeah.
like a normal 34 weeks and 6 days pregnant lady's probably going to have a baby that's plenty big. But because she's measuring small, that's why we were in this gray area. So, I get admitted, 24-hour monitoring. In the middle of the night, I'm woken up. Um, this nurse is like, "Hey, can you turn for me?" Her heart rate slowed down pretty significantly. Um, and so they're turning me, and more nurses come in and turn
Mm-hmm.
me, and I'm looking at I'm trying to look at my husband, and I'm trying to look at the heart rate monitor, but I wear glasses and contacts, and those were gone, so I was just in a blurry nightmare. And so they're turning me, and I'm like, "Oh my God, like what's happening?" Like and you could hear it too. The rhythm at
Mm-hmm.
the heart rate. And so when you hear it slow, you're like, "Oh my God, like that is so slow." Panic. So they're turning me, and they finally get it back up, and they're just like, "Okay, go back to sleep." Luckily, I was drugged. I had Benadryl, so I did
Mm,
go back to sleep. Um, and then I don't even know if it was an hour later, I was woken up again, and this time they couldn't find a heartbeat. And so, like they did the whole thing. More nurses would come in, and they ended up pulling the plug. Um, and
mm,
they just got a bunch of people on me, and I I just went into like oh my God, she's gone. Like I went into total, this is it. This is it.
mm-hmm.
She's gone. They can't find her heartbeat, and they found it. Um, but that was probably one of the most traumatic moments. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of traumatic moments in this whole experience, but even now getting NSTs, it's really hard. I asked them to turn down the heart. I asked them to put a towel over the monitor so I don't look at the heartbeat, just because it's so triggering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they found her heartbeat, and the next morning they told me she needs to come out.
Were you like, just we need to deliver this baby?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And my husband and I still talk about this. That day, I was 35 weeks exactly. Um, I just was in total peace. Like I just surrendered to
Hmm.
whatever she wanted to do, whatever was meant for her. I I just remember like my husband was, poor guy, was just, he's freaking out, of course. My family was freaking out, but I was just so at peace. I was like, you know what? This is, there's nothing we can do. And I just embraced the surrender. And I just said, she's going to do what's best for her.
Well, you made it to that moment, right? I think it's been such a battle to just make it to that moment, and now the
Yes.
moment's here, and it's like,
Right.
okay, okay, I'm gonna get to meet my baby.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we made it here. Yeah.
We made it here. There's nothing more we can do. We've done everything we can. No regrets. Like we've done literally everything we can. So
Well, and it's probably a relief, almost a relief for you too, because you've been in charge of taking care of this baby, right? And it's like
now it's them.
it's on you. It's your body, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now it's on them. Like we can deliver her and then they because they've always said once she's out, we'll know more. Once she's out, we'll know more because the tests are really not that accurate. Um, and so I had a planned C-section. It wasn't an emergency. They scheduled it for 1 p.m. In a side-by-side OR, so that they can take her directly to get heart surgery. And I remember asking if I could give her a kiss when she's born, and they said no, um, which was really hard. Um, of course, I didn't fight it. Like we like this is why you're in side by side ORs. We need to rush her over, and it was a very peaceful C-section. I tell people I wanted a doula, and I got an anesthesiologist. He was so nice and just like, you're feeling anxious? Okay, I'll take care of you. Like just very sweet. And um the birth went smooth and she went over and did her heart surgery. So they closed her PDA and then they took a look at the heart. And the PDA is that extra, um again, not a doctor, but there's like an extra part of the heart that when the baby's born, it closes on its own, and they wanted to close it themselves.
Hmm.
Um, and she was put on ECMO successfully.
Mm.
She was of weight and did it successfully. They really weren't sure. They really didn't know. They told us, like, we don't know how big she's going to be. We don't know if she's going to get through birth. We don't know if she's going to get through the surgery, and we don't know if she's going to get through getting put on ECMO because it's a very invasive process. And so we knew this was going to be a big day. And she successfully did it all. I recovered. I lied to the nurses about how I felt so I could go see her.
Of course,
Yeah.
as a mother would do.
As a mother would do. I ended up almost passing out after I met her though, because it was like less than a few hours after I gave birth, and my husband wheeled me back, and they kind of were like, I know you want to see your daughter, but if you code, that's not good because then our focus is on you and not on her. And I was like, I get it, I know. Um, and so from there, it was just recovery and getting to hang out with her and go see her. She had her own room with two giant TVs and a
Mm.
beautiful view. Like she had her own little suite. And so I could pump in the back of the room and go hang out with her, and Jordan could hang out with her, my husband. And he would go to rounds every morning and take notes. And I couldn't do it. And that's kind of what makes, like, we were just such good partners. Like I wanted to be there for her and be with her and spend time with her and read and sing and play with her. And he wanted to get the facts, get the knowledge, understand ECMO, understand kind of that stuff. And so that was kind of our life. And we actually moved into the hospital. Stanford has hospital rooms that are like little hotel rooms, that are in the children's wing. So we were like 2 or 3 floors above her, which was amazing because we could just live there, go see her, go back to our room. Um, And so that was life for a little bit. They had to do washouts because she had an open chest.
Yeah.
Washouts were like a surgery procedure. They would have to close it down, wash her out, clean everything, and she would get all puffy, and then she had to kind of recover from that. So
Mm.
this was kind of our life. Like, okay, let's try this and try this, and they tried to wean her off ECMO. Um, she was weaned off successfully for a period of time, and we were kind of in a state of because she was in a different room when she was weaned off, and so we were kind of in her room like asking when she would come back, and a bunch of doctors were like, I heard it went really well, she should come back any minute. And it ended up being hours and hours and hours, and we
Mm.
were like, what's going on? And we tried to call the surgery center, and they were like, let's get an up we'll try to get an update for you. And the surgeon came to us at 11 p.m. And was like, we weren't able to wean her off ECMO.
Mm.
And the way ECMO works is it's so high maintenance. It requires its own nurse. So she had a nurse for her, and then she had a nurse for the machine. And if there's any type of clot in the machine, they have to clear out the entire machine. And people don't live on ECMO. Like,
No.
you want somebody on ECMO for a few days. And at this point, she had been on it for a few weeks. So
Mm-hmm.
the fact that she couldn't get off of it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And um,
How old was she at this point?
man, I think she was about 2 weeks old.
Okay.
Um, and then at this point, they were like, we can try doing something with the heart, like a different surgery. I can't remember the specifics of it. But we were like, yes, do it. She had another heart surgery. Um, and, we just kind of had to wait and see what happened. And, because she was on ECMO and on blood thinners to avoid clots in the machine, she was always at risk for a brain bleed.
Mm-hmm.
And they would do brain ultrasounds every day to make sure that she didn't have any brain bleeds. And so on Valentine's Day in 2023, I think she was 2.5 or 3 weeks old. They looked at her brain and they said, I'm sorry, but there's a significant brain bleed, and there's nothing we can do. And I just remember just screaming, just just screaming, like, is this is it, this is it. Like, we've had so many close encounters, but then something would happen, it would change, and it would give me hope.
Mm-hmm.
And but this is truly it. And they said, we're going to do a CT scan just to confirm, um, but this is what we're seeing. And so we sat outside the room while they did this. They put her in the CT scan and everything. And I remember my husband just prayed, and I had never seen him pray before, ever. Like, we're Catholic, but we're not religious. And he prayed.
At this point, what else do you do, right?
What else do you do? And I looked at him, and I mean, I was like, how can you pray? Like, how can you pray to a God that would do this to our baby? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
just was so mad.
Mm-hmm. Of
And
course.
he was like, what else can I do? Like, maybe there's something that can be done. And I just was like, there's nothing that can be done. Like, I was frustrated with his hope. And so did the CT scan, and then the neurologist came in to talk to us, and they said, I looked at this images and they're not matching the ultrasound images. And we were like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, I don't see a brain bleed on the CT scan. Um, and the CT scan is more accurate than an ultrasound. And he showed us the images. He's like, look, here's her ultrasound, here's her CT scan. And they looked totally different. Even with an untrained eye, they looked totally different. We were, what does this mean? And he's like, well, I don't think she has a brain bleed. I don't know where this image came from. And it turns out they had accidentally switched ultrasound images on
Oh my
us.
God. I'm so sorry.
And the head of imaging came at Stanford. It was like, in my 33 years of working here, this has never happened. I am so sorry.
And that's probably not true,
That's probably not true.
right?
You're right.
Yeah.
And he was, apologizing, like, if you want information on people that were involved in this, we will give that to you. Like,
Mm.
very clear. And my husband goes, thank you, but all we want is for you to take care of that other family. And
Right? Because now they've just had a scan and they were given good news, right?
yep, yep. So that was wild, a wild like moment of I questioned my faith. I was like, oh my goodness, like how did this how did this happen? Like was this like I was a little bit like, okay, there's something out there that like what are the chances of that happening in such a well-renowned hospital? And you know what? It gave us a gift in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being able to look back at that and feel like we're going to lose her and feel the feeling of I have no regrets. I have no regrets. We've spent every moment we could like like singing to her and reading to her, and she got to meet all of her grandparents, and
Mm-hmm.
like it was just a moment of like I have no regrets regardless of how this goes. We are parenting her in the best way we can, and I'm at peace with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the 14th of February. And in the next 10 days, it was kind of more of the same. She's on ECMO. This can't be sustainable. And try a little of this, try a little of that. We'd go down to her first thing in the morning, spend all day with her, go back at like midnight or 1 in the morning. We loved our evenings with her because like the grandparents were in town and they'd spend, there could only be two people in the room with her in addition to her two nurses. So we'd give them time too, and then we'd come back. But at night, it would be our time, and we'd get
Mm-hmm.
to read to her, and my husband would hold her hand, and we just kind of got into a routine.
You got
And
to be family.
we got to be family, and it felt normal. Like it just felt like we'd chat with the nurses, and it'd be quiet on the floor. There wasn't a lot of running around, so the lights were off. It felt very peaceful. Um, and I miss that a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got a call from the genetics team because they did run tests and stuff, and they wanted to talk to us, of course, in a consultation room, of course. And that's essentially when they told us she has a very, 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 very rare genetic condition called Pallister-Killian syndrome, also known as PKS. And if she were to get through this hurdle, she would most likely never be able to walk or talk or eat on her own. Or and just given, I mean, it's a spectrum, but given how this condition presents itself, um, they said the likelihood of her being able to live a normal life outside of her heart condition is very, very slim. And it was in that meeting, I kind of knew, like I was like, okay, this is she's not meant for this body. Um, and it I didn't say anything, but I just kind of knew, how a mother knows.
Mm-hmm.
And so from there, we talked to doctors. They brought us all in a room and kind of talked to us with this new diagnosis. There's one more thing we can try. It's the single ventricle route. And I don't know, I know you have a heart baby, but I don't know if you're familiar with that surgery.
I'm
Um,
not.
okay. It's the kind of the last ditch effort. It's essentially trying to get the heart to function on a single ventricle. It's very dangerous. Um, it's a very dangerous surgery. It's a very dangerous like condition for the heart to be in. Even if the surgery goes well, there's a lot of risks involved after, and then the life expectancy isn't that long. And that's what we were told. I know I'm not a doctor, so if anyone wants to argue, please don't come at me. I know there are a lot of babies who have very good outlooks, who have single ventricle route, who live a long life. So, but given her condition, this is what we were told. Um, and I was pretty much like, I don't want her to get this surgery. Um, because in my mind, if she were to go on the operating table, that would be the worst. That would be the worst in a traumatic fashion. Um, but my husband wasn't ready, and I understood, and I was like, this needs to be unanimous. So I did not pressure him, and we had a lot of talks with the doctors and palliative care, um, and eventually he came around to taking her off life support. We just told the doctors like, hey, I don't think we're going to go through with the surgery. And they were like, I don't blame you. I, I think you're making a wise decision. Um, and, and so we said, let's just kind of maintain, kind of hospice style. Let's just make her comfortable. And when it's time, just tell us. And so that happened for about a few days. Um, they would check her and like, okay, things are going okay. Um, and then I think on February 23rd, that morning, they were like, I think it's time. And so we wanted to plan a big day of all of our favorite things. And we had Christmas for her. We played her Christmas music. And one of the nurses made her like a Lilo and Stitch outfit, and they played a Hawaiian roller coaster ride. And um, throughout this, when she was in the hospital, my husband put up pictures of inspiring women. So like Michelle Obama and what's the Florence Nightingale. And for a while, it was just Sally Ride randomly. It was just the first female astronaut. And so people would come in and be like, is that an ant or something? It was so funny. So then he added more pictures. And so she had a big wall of just inspiring women. And so there were moments of, trying to make it normal and loving and inspiring. And so that last day, we had all the grandparents say goodbye to her. And at um, that evening, because they kind of gave us like a 2-day period of when we could do it. That evening, we were going to spend the night with her, knowing it was our last night. And the nurses came in and were like, "Do you want to sleep in a bed with her?" And we were like, "We didn't know you could do that." Yes. And so they
Mhm.
all stayed past their shifts. Like there were like 8 nurses bringing in a hospital bed and moving her into the bed. And
Mm.
Jordan and I took turns every hour. We'd lay next to her. Um, and um, and then the next day, um, they brought in like a cart, and we just kind of spent the day with her. Um, and then that night you know, we played music, and I held her, and they took her off life support. Well, they cut the tubes, and I just held her and loved on her. Um and then we left. As crazy as that is, and as it felt, they wouldn't take her away until we left. Um, and so we kissed her, and you know, like they start changing pretty quickly. So we kissed her, and we were like, okay, she's gone. And we left. And somehow we live. We live.
Now, did they know what to expect when they took her off ECMO? Was that like to be expected?
Um, what do you mean? Like,
Like, if they took her off ECMO, did they think that she would be breathing on her own at all ever? Or just if she,
no,
yeah,
mm-mm. Just based off how she did before, they said it's
they
going to be
just,
pretty quick.
okay.
And of course, that we had a little moment of maybe it'll be a miracle, you know.
Hmm.
But we weren't.
Hmm.
We knew that it wouldn't be like that.
What an impossible choice.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes,
Hmm.
100%. It was it was the hardest decision, and it's it's still in my mind, like how our parents expected to choose. Like it's it's one thing to lose your baby, which is a horrible thing, and then to make it a choice and to be like,
Hmm.
you choose. If I mean, it's inhumane. It really is, but it isn't a choice. You are doing, and I've come to learn that. For a while it was very much like I killed my child.
Hmm.
And I know that's a very jarring, hard thing to hear, but that's how I felt. It felt
Hmm.
like I killed my child. Like I made the
Hmm.
decision. But, after lots of therapy and and healing, I know it's not a choice. And I know so many mothers have to make this horrible decision. And, it's what we say to each other. Would you tell a mother that? Would you say that
Hmm.
to a mother who had to make that
Never.
choice? And I said, I would never say that. I understand it's the most selfless thing a mother could do. And that's how I feel now. And I know we made the right decision. And I know just, her beautiful spirit wasn't meant for that body.
Hmm. I mean, mothers have to make really hard choices for their children, right? That's what part of being a mother, and you are an absolutely beautiful mother, and you made the hardest choice.
Thank you.
And she knows that.
Yeah. And something the doctor told us that I hope helps other moms too, when she was kind of declining, she said, it's a matter of what are we doing for her versus what are we doing to her?
Mm.
And that really, like, I was like, okay, like, when does it become less for her and more for us?
Hmm. Hmm. And that's probably why you denied that surgery, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Impossible choices, but yeah, they were all centered around Caroline, what was best
Yeah.
for her.
100%. 100%.
While we take a quick break, I wanted to introduce you to The Haven, my signature 12-week support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, stillbirth, or infant loss. The Haven isn't just a course. It's a trauma-informed, community-centered program that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing dual support from me, your dedicated pregnancy after loss doula, anytime you need it. You'll also receive guided journaling prompts, full access to my 13-module pregnancy after loss birth course, Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other PAL mothers, a place where you can be real, be held, and be reminded that you are not alone in this. Enrollment is now open at thedoulalife.ca/the/haven, with our next fall cohort reopening this September. You do not have to go through your pregnancy after loss alone. And inside the Haven, you won't. As a special offer to my podcast listeners, use code RAINBOW to get $100 off enrollment. So, Brie, I would love to hear about, I think our listeners would get a lot from how the days, weeks, months, how did that time look for you guys? How did, Caroline Cares come into the picture? I would love to hear more about that.
Sure. So the days after uh were a blur. We we really denied support a lot of the time. We were like, we just want to be alone. Um, and my husband's family, um, they're very um,
Involved?
involved. They are just they. I say they do death well, and I say that because we've had a lot of deaths in the family, and they rally. They just are. They rally and they bring food and they come over, and we didn't know that's what we needed, but we needed that, and so they kind of forced their way in and just fed us, surrounded us with love, like just held us, and my parents as well. And that's something that I think every family's different, every parent is different on how they need support, but that was something that I didn't know I needed until it forced its way on me, and I was like, "Oh my God, this I need this. I need
Hmm.
people around me." And so that was kind of what the first few weeks looked like. We would just sit on the couch. Honestly, we'd watch reality TV. I've heard a lot of lost moms do this, which is
We did that.
weird.
We lived off of reality TV because it's just like nice to be in someone else's world for a bit and just like
100%.
watch the trash, escape, turn it off. Like I said, you need that reprieve, right? You need it.
And it was like quick satisfaction,
Yeah.
quick, like you didn't have to think about anything. You didn't have to worry about a triggering event in a movie or figure
Hmm.
something out. It was just easy, digestible television. Um, and yeah, we watched like Vanderpump Rules and
Us
Summer
too.
House. What do you
Us too. Kardashians. I was like,
Yes,
I've never watched a Kardashian episode in my life, but now's the time.
yes. Below Deck. We watched so much Below Deck. It was just on constantly.
And it's
Um,
light, right? It's so light
it's
and
so
like
light and
fluffy.
yes, and like I told Jordan, if I were to ever go back to school, because I'm thinking about dabbling in grief counseling and going into like grief therapy work. I said I'm gonna write my dissertation on reality TV and its relation to grief because there is something there. And I want to know what that is in your brain that where you're just like, yes, more, please.
It's probably just like that constant dopamine, right? Because you're like, who knows? I would love to read. I would
Yeah.
love to read that.
If anyone's done a study on that, please let
Send
us
it
know.
over.
Um, but yeah, and then so that was the first few months. So she was born early, um, and her due date was March 4th. And so that was just quickly approaching. And we were essentially like, what do we want to do on her due date? Um, and we came up with the idea of putting care packages together for NICU families and thinking, oh, what a wonderful way to honor her on her due date. And so we did that and we did it with the family. So we got the family together and it was like a little mini party. And we put these bags together and delivered them to the hospital. And we just kind of were like, what if we did this like every month? And it was like a way to honor Caroline, talk about Caroline, and bring her family together. And like we all spend this day in honor of her and helping support other families. Um, and we just loved the idea. And we were like, let's call it Caroline Cares. And so that's what we've been doing ever since is, we put at least 20 bags together a month, sometimes more. If it's like, for infant and pregnancy loss awareness month or, Christmas, we like to do more. And then we'll make them themed. So we'll put like little themed stuff in there. And it's filled with stuff you need in the NICU. So tissues, water bottle, a notebook with a pen, stuffed animal, a storybook. We have gum, we have snacks, like stuff that helped us in the NICU that we just fill these little bags with, just to let parents know you're not alone and we've been through this and like it's hard and the littlest things, a granola bar or hand lotion. Like I remember washing my hands so many times, hand sanitizer, you need hand sanitizer every 5 minutes. So my hands would get cracked. And so hand lotion was just like, oh my gosh, this feels great. Little things so they don't have to worry about it because they're going through enough.
Just something too, just someone saying like, I see you.
Yeah.
I know what this is like. And just knowing that there's other people out there that it's like you're not in this hole by yourself. Like other people have done this and gone through this. And I think even just that in itself is huge, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So yeah, we love doing it and we're still doing it. And we have no intention of stopping, even with when baby makes his debut. We're hoping we can keep up with it because we enjoy it.
That's beautiful. I'll definitely leave more information about this in the show notes because I would really love for people to learn more about it. So that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
I'd love to, talk a little bit about, you just brought him up. That when this
yeah.
baby arrives, I'd love to know how, pregnancy after loss has been for you. I actually said to Bree before we started, she's the first guest to have on that is currently pregnant after loss, and I know a lot of my listeners are listening to this who are pregnant as well, and I would love to hear more about that and how it's going.
Yeah.
Or even let's talk about how you guys even got to the decision to
Yes,
try again, right? Because that's a big decision.
that is a big decision. I I don't know how other moms felt. For me, I wanted to get pregnant right away. I was like, I want another baby. And with a C-section, we had to wait a year, I think, or so. My husband did not want to get pregnant right away. And we were in no state to be pregnant anyway. So I really took that year as like healing, and we traveled, we went to the UK and just kind of did stuff that we wouldn't be able to do with a young one. So we did that for about a year, and then I actually got pregnant around her first birthday. I I remember, I was tracking my cycles, and I remember my LH was high for 7 days, and you TTC mamas know, you're in ovulation, your LH peaks and then it drops within like
Hmm.
24 hours, and so there was something off. And then I read on some forum in the internet, like, take a pregnancy test. And I was like, okay, I'll take a pregnancy test. And I did, and it was positive. And it was weird because I had got my period. And so I was like, this is weird. Like, I was happy, but I was also like, there's something off. So we went to get the blood test. My HSD was high. It wasn't doubling, but it was close. And so my OB at the time was very happy with it and was like, yeah, let's get you in for an ultrasound. And I said, well, I'm actually leaving for vacation overseas this next week. So can we get me in soon? And she's like, we can. We might not see the sac, but let's get you in. So
Hmm.
she got me in, couldn't see the sac, was like, that's fine because it's still early. And at this time, we didn't even know how far along I was because
Hmm. Because you had your period.
I had my period. And so I was like, well, I'm leaving for London in a few days. Is there any way to just see and make sure everything is going on or everything's going right? And she's like, well, what are you concerned about? And I was like, well, I don't know. Just like, what if it's an ectopic? And I just said that. And she's like, well, are you having like shoulder pain or cramping or bleeding? And I was like, no, I'm not having any symptoms of pregnancy or anything. And she's like, well, if that'll make you feel better, we can do that. And I said, yes, that would make me feel better. So she booked me in for a high res ultrasound the next day. Well, this was a Tuesday and we were leaving on Thursday. And so I get in on Tuesday, and my husband doesn't come with me because I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's fine. I just want to kind of rule this out because I'm a paranoid, pal mama. So
Mm.
um going for the ultrasound, they don't say anything, of course. And then I get a call from the on-call OB who is at home, calls me and is saying, what kind of symptoms are you having? And I said, I'm having zero symptoms. Why? And he's like, well, you have an ectopic pregnancy. and you need to go in for emergency surgery.
Mm.
And I was like, what? Are you serious?
I just have to say, I feel like you have a crazy intuition.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. And I didn't know it until all of this happened. And so I went in for surgery. It was successful. They didn't remove my tube or anything. But I share that just as I want mamas to advocate for themselves and advocate for their bodies and don't feel ashamed when something feels off, but the doctor is telling you nothing's off, because
Hmm.
listen to that. Listen to that. It could save your life. If I had not and I had gone on that flight, it could have ruptured. We don't know. And so I just want to share that story because it's so important that we give ourselves that understanding, and that we
Permission.
don't, yeah, and we don't
Hmm.
judge ourselves based on like, oh,
Hmm.
am I crazy? Am I anxious? Like, no, you're not. Like,
Sometimes a mother's intuition is stronger than any result or any, research study or anything like that. Sometimes if a mother's intuition is saying something, a good care provider is going to know to listen
100%,
to that. Yeah.
totally. And I just I encourage women to track for that reason, and to, you know, it's just important to know that ectopics can have no symptoms. Like, and I don't want to scare moms. I just want
Hmm.
moms to be aware and
Hmm.
to speak up. Um,
Hmm.
and so after that, we did go on our trip, and it was amazing. It was needed at that time. Very healing trip. And then we kind of waited a little bit and then started trying again. And in November, I think, is when, we got pregnant. And it was, I mean, given everything we've gone through, it's wonderful and also terrifying. Like, you're
Hmm.
just terrified. Um, I mean, your posts honestly really helped me. Like, that first trimester was brutal. Every ultrasound, every little, no symptoms, too many symptoms. I got strep throat when I was like 6 weeks, and I was
Hmm.
freaked out, but I had to,
I remember when you were sick, actually.
yeah,
Hmm.
I was very sick, and I had to be on antibiotics, and I was like, what is this gonna do? Um, it was hard. It felt like forever. Like, I will never get to the second trimester. I just thinking about all of the tests I was going to have to go through was so daunting. But I knew I put together the time while we were like, before we tried to conceive and during, I put together a team that I knew when I got pregnant, this team was going to be my survival guide. And that was, I found a good old OB, and this OB's office wasn't taking patients who weren't pregnant. But I called and I said, I know I'm not pregnant. I need to meet my OB before I decide she's my OB.
Hmm.
And I forced my way in there and got an appointment with her. And we talked, and she was like, I'm so glad you booked this appointment. Um, and now she's my OB, and she's incredible. I got my fetal cardiologist. I was like, this is who I want to go with. I have my therapist. I have my acupuncturist, who's also my therapist. um, I knew that I had a team of people who were going to get me through this pregnancy. Um, and that is kind of like what's held me, really, is the medical team. And
Hmm.
in addition to therapy, in addition to you and all the influencers I follow who I can like turn to when those dark thoughts come, and I feel alone. And getting through that anatomy scan, getting through the fetal echo, it was very hard. Um, we actually had a scare in our first fetal echo, that we had to have another one, and it ended up being fine. But it brought me reeling. And he saw something that um, could be a VSD, which is a hole in the heart, which I know is not a huge deal to.
Because it can close when it's early on. Yeah.
Yeah, it can close. It cannot be an impact on their life. Like people live with VSDs fine. However, when you have a mom who has a history of heart condition, I got sent back into trauma and I lost it. I really was in a dark place, and I had to gather my team and go to my resources and work through it. And you know, by the time we went in a month or so later, I was in a much better place. And luckily, there was no VSD, and we were very thankful. And we actually graduated from our MFM last week, so no more
Wow.
MFMs.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Uh, but this is a territory I never thought I would be in. I've never known.
Well, now you are stepping into totally new territory, right? Because you're almost close. You're very close to when you delivered Caroline.
Yes,
Yep. It's very new. It's a
it's
lot
very
of
new.
newness. Yeah.
And having a normal pregnancy is I feel very blessed and lucky because I know not every mom gets to have this. And so it's a different perspective that we have as lost parents. Like so many people take this for granted. So many people take this time like, complaining. And I'm not saying we don't complain about pregnancy, but like
You're definitely allowed to commiserate still.
you are, yes.
hmm
But there is a side to it. And I think it's gonna, you can tell me, I think it's gonna happen with parenting as well, where of course there are late nights and of course there are things that you wish were different. You miss sushi and you miss deli meat and all this stuff. But there is this side that's ah, like
It could be so
how
much worse.
could be so much worse. How lucky am I that I have a baby that's crying all night long? How lucky am I that I don't have to I can't eat deli meat or I can't drink that cocktail because I'm pregnant with a healthy baby. Like things that we know aren't a given.
hmm Well, we would give our left leg to be in this situation. What is deli meat compared to your,
Seriously.
like, it's really, we'll do anything,
We'll
right?
do
At this
anything.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
It definitely changes your perspective on so many things. And it definitely makes you, I always said that like loss really does make you appreciate all the little things, right? Even the hard stuff. Because we know what a gift it is to have those things, and we know what it's like to not have it, to lose it,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. Um, yeah. I know like there was a saying that I heard, and it was something like think of when you wanted what you have right now.
Like
And
when you wish for what
when
you
you wish
have.
for what you have. And that can go beyond pregnancy, but pregnancy especially. And I keep going back to that day when she was born, where I surrendered, and I I I kind of I hold on to that surrendering in those times where I just want to clasp onto something to control it, and I feel that need to control. I really try to get back into that mindset of like I don't have control. We don't have control. We have right now, and right now this baby's moving, and that gives me peace. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, and we just don't. And as lost moms, that that's our reality. Like we had a healthy, perfect baby one day, and the next day things changed. And no, it's not our fault. We we can't control that.
And even if you do, it could still change, right? Even if you try to grasp as much control as you can, tomorrow could be a different day.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think in pregnancy, especially after loss, it is I hate when people say take it day by day, appointment by appointment, but it really, you have to. It is a marathon. Because there were times, especially in the first trimester, where I was like, I can't go to this appointment. I don't know how I'm going to lay on that table and look at an ultrasound, given everything. I don't know how I'm ever going to, after my ectopic pregnancy, I was like, I'm never going to get an ultrasound again. This is so traumatic. I was looking at, not seriously, but I was like, how much are ultrasounds to have at home so that I don't have to
Mm.
go into the doctor's office and I can just do it myself?
Like, how can I train myself as an
Yes,
ultrasound tech?
yes.
Yes, I totally get it.
But
And you almost become, I feel like in PAL, for some of us, you almost do become an expert. Like, I know with me, with my daughter Senna, I was an expert by the end because I learned everything. You kind of, I think you know that you are going to be your baby's best advocate. And it feels like pressure, but also a lot of us, like you were saying, like it does feel like that sense of control can be helpful. It helps you like have some sort of not power, but it does help you to know, right? And like it does reduce that risk of being surprised or
yes,
you know what triggers are going to come, like that knowledge. You're like, okay, I know what's going to happen in this appointment. I know what results could be said. So it helps you like prepare in case it does, right? You're not going to get that shock as much, but
right. Yeah,
it's a tight line to follow, right? Because
yes.
yeah,
It's dangerous.
it
That
can be.
preparation, that anxiety. And my therapist likes to ask me, is it intuition or is it anxiety?
Hmm.
And that's something that I really have to focus and think about because my intuition is strong and I tap into it. But then my anxiety is also strong and she likes to rear her ugly head and I it's hard to tell the difference a lot of times. I don't know.
It is deciphering it is extremely hard. Yeah,
It's
that's
so
like one
hard.
of the battles. Deciphering the anxiety and the intuition and this act of surrendering. Those are really two huge themes, and both are extremely, extremely hard.
Totally. Yeah. Yes.
Well, I'm so excited to, we're going to have you back on this podcast
Yeah.
one day because
Yeah.
I want to hear all about this little boy and how everything went. And I know I speak for everyone listening. We are so appreciative of you sharing your heart and your story and Caroline and just being so courageous and brave. I know there are going to be so many moms that listen to this that see themselves in your story and find comfort in your story and validation. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And like I said, we're going to have you back. You're going to have to keep us posted. And I'm going to be stalking your Instagram to see how things go.
Yeah.
But I'm just so thankful to have you on here today. And we wish you all the best in these next few weeks. Sending all our love and like that surrendering manifestation on you because yeah, this is where
Yeah.
things can get a little intense, but
Yes.
I know you are a very strong mother and you have already been through the hardest thing and you're going to do amazing. I truly believe in that.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much again for having me on. Like this community was my lifeline. It still is my lifeline. So any way I can give back is truly an honor. You like these women like are just this. They're the strongest women I know, and you included. I don't know if I'd be here if it weren't for this community. So thank you for all that you do for all of us. And I'm happy to come back, and talk about little brother. So,
Bree, where could people find you in case they want to get in touch with you?
yeah, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Bree Hansen, Brihansen, and reach out, send me a DM. I am talking to lost moms. I'm actually part of a program called HAND, where we get paired with peer-on-peer support. So we talk to recently bereaved parents, and I am an advocate and a supporter in through that program. And if you're interested in either joining that program or you need extra support, you can look it up. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to chat and happy to be there for you if you need that. So
Beautiful. Thank you
yeah.
so much, Bree.
Yeah. Thank you, Kristen.
Bree, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your heart, your honesty, and your story with us today. Caroline's life and the love you poured into every single moment with her, I know will stay with all of us who got to listen in. If this episode touched you, I hope you'll take a moment to check out Caroline Cares and the beautiful work Bree and her husband are doing in her memory. You can find the link in the show notes. As always, if this story resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. Until next time, take care of your heart. Your baby is never forgotten, and neither are you. If you enjoyed today's episode and you are looking to feel a little less alone in life after loss, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can continue hearing real, honest stories from mothers who've walked this path too, and to stay up to date with all future episodes of The Rainbow Connection. If you're looking to connect more, Instagram is where I hang out most, so come and join me in a beautiful community of lost moms for PAL-specific birth education, real-life grief talk, and deep solidarity. You can find me at the.doula.life. And don't forget to check out today's show notes for any resources mentioned in this episode, or head to thedoulalife.ca/podcast for more. And remember, you are never alone. I'll see you in the next episode.